1975, 11 years before I was born, Leila Lombardi scored half a point in the Spanish Grand Prix at Montjuic Park in Barcelona. At the time, she was only the second woman ever to qualify for an official Formula One World Championship Grand Prix. Today, almost 50 years later in 2024, Leila Lombardi is still the most recent person who isn't a cisgender dude to take the start of a race. In the intervening years, we've had a few test and development drivers, a few attempted qualifiers, and Desiree Wilson, who won a race in the short-lived British Aurora F1 Championship back in 1980, which was a series that mostly used second-hand machinery and padded its numbers by allowing entries from Formula 2 cars. So what gives? I'm going to need a drink for this. Okay, happy days. Formula One and motorsport in general is up there with sports like archery and equestrian in the gender essentialists and TERFs can't really argue a biological gap in performance category of competition. You can probably guess my thoughts on that subject based on the kind of aggressive, ironic tone. Don't bother coming into my comments with your flaming hot takes. This video isn't about that, it's about opportunity and it's about socialization. And if you're the kind of person who immediately clicks out of F1 videos made by women, then I've already lost you. So I guess now is the point. I may as well just get super real about it all. A lot of people like to think it's just those who vote for politicians like Humpty Dumpty, Flock of Seagulls Mark II, and 34 felonies and it's still perfectly legal for him to run for president over here, who like to complain about how woke the world is now. But they're not. Plenty of those who vote to the left don't like being called out when they use gay as a synonym for dumb, or say something casually racist, or are told that the gendered socialization they're inadvertently pushing on their kids might actually be kind of shitty. Pink for girls and blue for boys, dolls for girls and trucks for boys, netball for girls and rugby for boys. It still happens, and it still happens across a wide range of demographics. And while this is starting to slowly change, even for those parents who do try to raise their kids without these kind of gender stereotypes, that doesn't stop them from being influenced by the social norms dictated by their peers, which often still adhere to outdated concepts. I haven't got a coaster. So the end result, well, it's just kind of like any kind of social change. It can be a very long, slow process that can't really happen in one generation. And it hinges on us as individuals being more self-aware and being more willing to change, even if it means swallowing a bit of humble pie every now and then and admitting our attitudes towards something are wrong. Girls that are getting into single-seaters now had to be in karts 10 years ago. Their parents are mostly older millennials or Gen Xers. Let's be honest, probably Gen Xers, because millennials who had kids in their early to mid-20s don't have that kind of money. And if they do have that kind of money, it's generational wealth, which means even here in Aotearoa, that pretty much always is going to mean pony club, tennis, or maybe golf. I had the pleasure of being able to see the exceptional young women of F1 Academy race a few weeks ago, as well as walk down their paddock and see them interacting with their teams and fans from a few metres away. They're talented, they're professional, and they're media ready. And we'll probably never get to see one of them in Formula One machinery on a Grand Prix weekend, even though the turnout to their on-track sessions was pretty damn solid, because then we move into the other big hurdle, backing. For girls in motor racing, this is kind of like a chicken and egg situation. Sponsors are hesitant to back them because there's no proven return. However, without more women in karts, in regional series, in competition with the guys in general, that proof of concept will never have the opportunity to happen. Someone needs to be the first one in the modern era to do it, but even that doesn't guarantee change, even if they are successful. Just look at Lewis Hamilton, still the only black F1 driver ever, despite it getting on for 20 years since his debut. And then you have those who will use any kind of failure as gleeful ammo to point out how anyone born with an F on their birth certificate actually can't handle driving a Formula One car after all. And that's a fact that we all know is bullshit, but the F1 misogynists who like to point and shout, DTS fangirl! Every time a woman dares make themselves known, we'll spend endless amounts of energy talking about it on Reddit anyway. Don't tell me it doesn't happen. Comment moderation is a thing, and sometimes I have to suck it up, take away the engagement, and click delete. Because nobody reading the comments deserves to see that kind of vile brain rot. Side note, I've seen a few people comment here and there about the dearth of women-run YouTube channels, and we're out there, quite a few of us. But viewers aren't clicking subscribe, they're not watching videos to the end, and they're not clicking on them at all once they recognise thumbnail formats. And the end result is channels never get any traction. The algorithm thinks we suck. And yes, this is my reminder to you all to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more of my freezing cold takes on F1 in the world's second worst accent. So there's multiple compounding factors here. Girls aren't getting into karting in anywhere near the same numbers as boys because it's generally just not presented as an option. And if it is, being involved in a sport where you're outnumbered 10 or 20 to 1 by a different demographic is scary. Again, trust me, I was a teenage golfer. 5 girls in the whole region playing competitively and somewhere around like 50 to 75 boys. Showing up for a tournament was daunting and ironically ended up fostering a lot of the internalized misogyny I had as a young adult because those other girls were bitchy as all hell. So if there's one 8-year-old girl for every 10 or 20 8-year-old boys showing up at the karting track on a Saturday for her to make it through the gauntlet that is the minefield of social pressure, money and sponsorship, the underlying knowledge you're an outsider and how uncomfortable and anxiety inducing that can be, and the knowledge that your chances of making it in motorsport are so ridiculously slim that even if you're the most talented kid on track, you still have to do well in school because in all likelihood, you'll still end up in a minimum wage job like everyone else, and it better at least be one that gives you growth opportunity and a chance of being financially independent by the time you're 50. Well, and that's why even if a lot of people, including myself, don't like the fact that women-only series like F1 Academy exist, the fact of the matter is, at the moment, with the current state of motorsport, they kind of have to. Until more girls are getting into karting from a young age so that academies have more than 1 or 2 a year who tick all the right boxes to sign on to their development programs, until sponsors are willing to front up money to back the really talented ones and not just those who have the right connections, then this cycle will continue. I'm going to leave you with one quote from Sophie Kumpen, highly regarded racer, former karting teammate of Jenson Button, and someone whose karting career could have set her on the path to Formula One until she met a bloke who already had an F1 contract, and she did what so many other young women do, bowed to the societal pressure to settle down and become a mum, allegedly. I dreamed of car racing and also had offers for Formula Renault and Formula Opel, but I got into a relationship with Jos Verstappen. He drove Formula One and it would have been too much for us if I had started racing too. I didn't mind, I'm a racing fan and love being close to Formula One. In retrospect, now that Jos and I are divorced, I should have chosen my car racing dream. Ironically, Sophie's own daughter Victoria, who, like her 3-time world champion brother, showed a lot of talent and promise behind the wheel, well, she followed an eerily similar path to her mum.